Hello and welcome back to another episode on this YouTube channel where we're focused on CICD. Today we're going to dive deep into CDK and CDK CICD with CDK. To be honest, I've been using CICD pipelines in CDK for a while, and I also blogged about it. But there is another AWS DevTools hero that, Rehan is a community hero. And he has built a project that is external to CDK, the CDK Express CICD pipelines. And I'm eager to hear why he has built it, what the main reason behind it is. And Rehan, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's nice to be on here. I've watched a few of them and I enjoyed them to learn what others are doing. So to answer your question of why, it's basically just to have pipelines that are much faster and something that's built system agnostic. So it's like something that I can use in GitLab, for example, or Jenkins, or locally. And if I do it locally, I know it's going to work exactly the same on my build system. That's one of the main reasons for building this.
Cool. So you're kind of giving away a lot of the details already right from the start. Before we do more details on CDK Express Pipelines, let's talk a little bit about who you are and what you're actually doing within the community or within your day-to-day work. I think you're dialing in from South Africa today, right?
Yes. I'm based in South Africa, which is kind of the same time zone as in Europe, and I'm working for a company in Europe then called DataChef. They're a data engineering company, and I'm more of the cloud expertise for this data company. But here in South Africa, I've been an AWS Hero for about 4 years now. 5 years, I'm not exactly sure, but I've been in AWS for quite a few years, just after Lambda started, like roundabout. And then I was hooked. I have been in AWS doing all kinds of AWS things, like blogging, running some meetups here in South Africa, just helping out where I can. And then I became this AWS Hero thing, which I didn't even know existed. But it's a very nice program to be in, that and the community builders. And since then, I'm focused on AWS. I've mainly fallen into this infrastructure track in my career, infrastructure and platforming, DevOps. Not so much serverless anymore. I still love it, and if I have the opportunity, I'll jump at it. But like for the last few years, it's mainly been infrastructure, and CDK has played a very big role in that.
Cool. And CDK has multiple flavors, as most of you might know. I assume that you're on the TypeScript side, or are you on the Python side of the world?
Yes, now I'm mainly on the TypeScript side, but when I do create these constructs, I create them to be used in TypeScript and in Python.
Cool. That's great. So let's dive into it. CDK Express Pipelines. In what relation does it stand to CDK Pipelines itself? I think CDK Pipelines itself uses code pipeline and code built under the hood. And it has also a possibility to generate GitHub Actions, as far as I remember. Those are the two things that the native CDK pipelines support. They are written by another DevTools hero that most of you might know, Thorsten Höger. He's been on my channel a few times. How is your project different from those?
So I'm talking about the CDK pipelines, or are you? Which one exactly are you talking about?
I was talking about CDK pipelines. How are they different from CDK Express pipelines, right? So that is kind of what I'm trying to
Well,
understand.
well, like those are using, like you mentioned, code pipeline and code build. So inherently, they kind of work different. Where code pipeline would pull the source from GitHub, store it in an S3 bucket, and then you cannot do all of your normal Git commands in it, or it's usually a struggle. And then this code pipeline orchestrates all the code builds for you and passes assets along. Like limitations I've hit in the past was passing big assets along. It's slow. Every time a code build needs to start up, there's some time delay in there. And if you have lots of waves and lots of stages and applications, that really adds up. Sometimes these waves or stages don't have anything in them. Like those stacks don't have any changes, but they still have to go through the motion. And every time it's adding minutes, minutes, and minutes. And so this comes from one of my previous companies where we just had a lot of stacks and it was slow. So we eventually ditched the CDK pipelines and we used a flavor of this. I kind of developed it there and I've been bringing it along since me, like for a few months, years now. And I decided to publish this as a construct for others to use as well.
Cool. And you are using that in production as well, in multiple projects, as far as I hear, right? Cool. So
Yes, yes.
let's look at the project, right? So let's maybe, I don't know, do you want to share your screen, look at the project, and maybe show us the project in action? And I think one of the things that calls out is also that you are able to execute the pipelines locally, which is something that I've been also looking for. Let's have a look.
Yes. Um, so I'm here on the CDK Express pipeline without an S. I'm not sure why I decided to do that, but I was thinking that it should be singular, not plural, for some reason.
Okay.
I'm not sure why CDK Pipelines had an S, but this one does not. And so right off the bat, I did mention that it's using CDK native method, and it's an alternative to this CDK pipelines
Mhm.
that you were talking.
Yep.
Like you're talking about this one, right?
Yeah, I guess the link doesn't work in there anymore, but they have moved that to have CDK pipeline. I can put you the link in the chat if you want to bring that up. Over
You can
here.
pop in there if you want to. But I mentioned that I spent some time in my current company developing this, so that's why I just have the sponsor there. And the main feature of this, I mentioned it like briefly, is that it can work anywhere. Your local machine, GitLab, Jenkins. If you can do a CDK deploy command, then you can run this. And it's
Cool.
very nice to be able to run it locally.
But running locally, what does that mean? Let's define that a little bit better.
Well, let's jump the gun a little bit. So if you want to local usage, so I'm here at the local, so I can just do CDK diff all, and it will do the same diff on all my stacks. It doesn't matter if in what wave it is and what stage it is, but I can also say CDK diff just the single wave or the single wave and stage. Um, so the same command you would do locally, you would do in your pipeline, and it would work exactly the same. And
Okay.
that all comes down to how these things are structured and how they're set up.
Cool. So then do we want to try it out? So I know it's your project, so you know how to use it, but I don't. So let's try it out, and maybe let's do a quick example on how the CDK Express pipeline helps you to do CICD.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I can let me jump there, but or let's maybe go through one or two things here, and then I'll jump
Okay.
to the demo
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry.
because I think it will be easier to visualize like this, like the deployment order.
Makes
Um,
sense.
if we have, for example, here we have wave one and wave two, and in them there's stage one and stage two. So waves will be deployed in, um, they will be deployed sequentially. So wave
Mhm.
one has to finish and then wave two can start. And that
Mhm.
means all the stacks needs to be deployed here in wave one before wave two can start. Now stages can be run in parallel. They will run in parallel, and the same with these stacks. If a stack can be deployed, it will be deployed. And that sounds confusing, but if we define it like this, it basically means that this stack E is depending on that stack B, that one, and that one. So all of them needs to be finished before this one can start deploying.
Mhm.
And if we were to do a CDK deploy with this concurrency flag, because this is what really enables this concurrency to make it run in parallel, it will. And when I say it, I mean CDK is smart enough to know that I cannot deploy stack B because stack B depends
Mhm.
on stack A. So first I have to deploy stack A. So it will deploy stack A, C, and D. And when that's done, this stage is complete. There's no more stacks that needs to be deployed. So it will start to deploy this stack B so that it can
Mhm.
complete the stage one, wave one. Once that's done, the whole wave is done. Now only it will start with the stacks in, or like stack E and F inside the second wave. And when that's done, everything is done.
Mhm.
And that
And
kind of
and
just
and the
visualize.
construct will identify those dependencies automatically, or is that CDK built in that will do that?
Like we are using this .add dependency, but it is happening, but it's happening internally. Like that's what the CDK Express pipeline is doing. It is
Okay.
taking this representation that you tell it of waves and stages, and it then calls add dependencies for you to build this dependency graph.
Okay, cool.
So let's jump to some code. I can see you're itchy for some code.
I always want to see all of the nitty-gritty details, right?
So in that repo, I am listing there some demo repositories. So this is the demo TypeScript one, and it is a stock standard CDK project, which is, why is it so slow? My mouse clicks are very delayed. Let's see how it goes. I'm not sure why. But inside lib, we have stack A, B, and C, similar to
Mhm.
what we saw there. But you'll notice that it extends from Express stack, which is
Mhm.
coming from the CDK Express pipeline construct, not from CDK dot
Yeah, not from
stack.
the normal CDK stack. Okay.
And the difference here is that there's one extra parameter that we need to pass Express stage to
Mhm.
this super function, which is that Express stack.
Mhm.
And then stack A has a topic A, stack B has a topic B. So I'm just demonstrating kind of how this would look like. And then in our bin, we define our pipeline. We say pipeline.add wave, and then we take this first wave and we say add stage. So now we have a variable called wave1 stage 1. And we say stack A depends on this wave1 stage 1. Uh, did it freeze completely now?
Not for me, at least.
Okay, well, I think you can still see my mouse moving, but it froze, like I cannot double click. And then stack B also is in this wave on
Mhm.
stage 1, and stack C is then in wave 2, stage 1.
Mhm.
And then at the
Okay,
end, we
so in the
just say,
constructor of the stack, you add the wave of deployment at the end, right? And that's what what helps it understand how to at the end compile the dependency graph.
yes, like we say that this stack belongs to this wave 1, stage
Mhm.
1 in the, like when you create that stack.
Okay.
That's how it knows it belongs to that wave and belongs to that stage. And at the very end, we say this express pipeline dot synth, and we pass it the two waves. And then this is what again determines like the sequential wave. Wave one must finish before wave two, and then wave three, or whatever you
Okay.
call your waves.
Okay, makes sense. Now, this the .synth command, it generates some code, is what I assume,
This one
or does
actually
it?
does not. It's
Okay.
just it seemed familiar to what CDK actually does, and it's just some, like I don't want to say post processing, but it just does some things afterwards. And those
Okay.
things we already talked about. It is to do that add dependency. It because now it has this graph of waves, stages, and stacks, and now it's going to do add dependency to like to make sure that it works like we want it to.
Cool. Makes sense. And then I would use for this application just CDK deploy and I'm done, or what is the next step after setting up the project?
So this CDK diff all profile run, normal CDK command that I run.
Hmm.
If we say run, um, it will first output a little order of deployment saying this is a wave, this is wave 2, and it tells you like waves are deployed sequentially, stages are deployed in parallel within the wave, within a wave. And then stacks, like they're dependency driven within this stage. But it makes more sense if you look at it like this, like wave 1, stage 1, stack A and stack B. But we see that stack B is dependent on stack A. And then we have wave 2, stage 1, stack C.
Hmm.
And now it's doing the normal CDK commands. Well, it's been a while since I actually upgraded my Bootstrap stack,
I
but
have the same issue.
I think this is 2020 or something. But just ignore the yellow things. And if you ignore that, and you see it's trying to do stack the stacks, there's no difference. There's no difference, and it's done. And then so the diff shows there's no difference.
Hmm.
We could probably add something just to make it a bit more interesting. Let's just make it topic AA just so that there's something output now. Um, let's run div again. And while that runs, like I want to show that you can, instead of running everything, you can, for example, target all stacks in a wave or all
Hmm.
stacks in a stack by saying wave underscore one. And that is because this express stage or express stack creates logical IDs for your stacks, but it's only within the CDK. Like your stack will still be named stacked A when you deploy it. But the ID here says wave one underscore stage one underscore stack one.
Hmm.
So you can easily target all the stacks in this wave by saying wave one star like I do here. Then it's only going to deploy those stacks, and that's very nice if you're doing local like development and there's some stacks that you want to deploy the same as your pipeline would. You could very easily do the same here locally.
Hmm.
um, and now it's really frozen. Let me
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
stop quickly. I don't know why, but it's usually when I present, I thought it's just a Google Meet thing.
Might be a
Okay.
browser thing at the end. As the recording tool that we use is Descript, it runs in the browser with the newest version, and that might be the
So
challenge.
like
Ah,
here
okay,
it's
so there's the
saying
change. Yeah.
that it's going to destroy. So it's the normal CDK things that we love. And I could, for example, now we made it just do wave one. So I could just run wave one if I
Mhm.
wanted to, but I'm going to just run the whole thing again. And then it's going to deploy it and it's going to adhere to that dependency. So if we look at what it's going to do here, it's starting with wave one, stage one, stack A, but it will in parallel, we'll probably see now pop up. I think it's, there wasn't. Stack B depends on stack A. So stack A has to finish and then stack B can start.
So I think I just got it. You don't. That means that you actually don't execute anything on a code pipeline CDK on a code pipeline a code build. You really just execute CDK deploy, and under the hood, the stacks are then deployed in the order that you want it to be. Right. This is essentially what the construct makes sure and recognizes. So that means, and that's why also this project runs on GitLab, GitHub, local, whatever. You really just need to execute the CDK CLI command.
Yes. So like to bring that home, it's if you look at the GitHub workflows to deploy, like this one would run on a push to main branch. It will do checkout, setup node, npm install, assume the role that like so that my GitHub account can work with my AWS
Mhm.
and deploy things there. And then it just does like we did now locally. npm run CDK dev,
Mhm.
npm run CDK deploy all. And this CDK deploy all, it will figure out that it must first deploy stack A
Okay.
because stack B depends, and if that's done, then only I can deploy my stack C because it's in the second wave.
Cool, got it. That makes sense because that also means that your CI/CD then directly runs on the GitHub side of the world, right? And you don't need to wait for code pipeline to finish. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yes. And
Yeah, took me
um,
took me a while to understand that. I'm sorry.
I might
Uh,
not be the best in explaining like these more complex concepts, but I'm glad that you understood it now, and hopefully the others would as well.
yeah, I hope so. And if you have questions, please let us know in the comments as well, right? So I think it's important to give feedback and ask questions as well. So let's.
Before
How
we
comp?
continue,
Okay,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind, so I showed there that those GitHub workflows. So I'm in the CDK Express Pipeline demo TypeScript project, like the one we were just in the IDE now. On there at the bottom ish, like you can see GitHub workflows, and it's it's fast. And when I say it's fast. Do I have time here? Like
You have
it's a
time
few
to.
seconds, like 1 second. Sorry,
Well, I would say it's as fast as CloudFormation is. So it depends on the changes that you kind of put into your stacks on, but it doesn't
it
add
is.
any additional time, right?
Yes and no, because if this was CDK pipelines, the one that's very popular with like with CDK, each one of these stacks, or at least each one of these stages, would have been a code build on its own. So you would have had to wait for that code build to spin up, to get the assets from the other files, to download things, where by this, everything is deployed inside this single, let's call it compute, being it like GitHub Actions, because you can use this CDK Express pipeline inside a code build as well, a single code build or code pipeline as well. You can use it like that as well, but there's no overhead, I would say, between deploying these stacks that code build and code pipeline brings with it. It's just everything in one compute. So
I
it's
got it.
16
So it
seconds.
it so it runs in one stage, right? So um, I see one potential, let's say, challenge with that, right? Which is that it is hard to get the deployment times and steps and overview if this grows pretty big, right? So because you need to look at the log files to see the actual timings for the different waves and stages, or is this something that hasn't been a problem when you use the project in your environment so far?
That's true. Um, so, like you say, I'm going to this log file to see the outputs of what succeeded, what failed, and it does get, I guess, difficult. But I'm so used to it now, I didn't even think about it. Um, but the benefits kind of outweigh the negatives here for me. It's just that it is like extremely fast, like because we had many stacks in one of our previous companies, and then developers would push something and then they would have to wait 10 plus minutes for code pipeline to finish, and it was just a terrible like developer experience.
Yeah,
With this, it's much faster. If something fails, you can still find all of the stack traces and well, all the cloud formation output inside the single log. It is a bit more confusing. Like you have to know what you're looking for and how you're looking at it, but the benefit is it's worth
yeah,
it for me.
I get it. I get it, and it makes sense, right? But really, it makes you tool agnostic, but obviously it also gives away the power of purpose-built tools like GitHub Actions, Code Pipeline, Code Build, right? Um, or 100 other tools, GitLab, right, that we have, because you cannot see each of the executions in an overview, right? You need to look at the log files, right? And I just, well, I would say there is persons and personalities that need this graphical overview somehow, right?
That's why you can do it, but it's not out of the box. It's enabled, but
Okay.
you have to. Um, yeah. So, like I showed that we could have, for example, deployed only the wave one or only the wave two stacks. So you have to build your workflow then manually. What that would look like is, since we're here, if we go to deploy advanced, because this one does it separates the wave one from the wave two, whereby wave one, so it does those things that we talked about. Well, actually, if you just quickly talk about, like, it does a synth first, which it
Mhm.
does CDK synth, and what that does is it just takes your CDK code, it compiles it to CloudFormation, and it puts it in a directory. Now, that directory can easily be used by my next steps, which is wave one, wave two, where wave one only deploys wave one stacks. And then we could have a manual approval in here, like a GitHub manual approval. And then wave two only deploys wave two stacks. So now I'm kind of telling the CDK Express pipelines, hey, please do not deploy everything all at once so that these logs are confused. This would be one step, or like one action that you can look at its logs in its own. Like, you can be more granular by saying wave one, stage one, if you wanted to. Wave one, stage one, wave one, stage two, wave one, stage three, and then even make them run in parallel. And then wave two just depends on all of those. So then you build a bit more of it inside your CI/CD tool, which, if you really wanted this, then you can do it, but it doesn't work like that out of the box.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
thought
Okay.
of doing it before, but that's still something that I actually do want to do. Like, it creates this workflow for you. But I found that there's always something someone needs to add to a pipeline, and so these auto-generated things are difficult to work with. I just prefer doing them manually every time, but I know it's like, that's just my opinion.
No, that makes sense. And I'll once again point you at Progen Pipelines, where we are actually trying to generate these pipelines for the tool natively, right? This might be something that we could work together on to then make use of CDK Express Pipeline under the hood in the generated code, right? I'll talk to Torsten about that again.
Yeah, project. Yeah, that's a discussion for a different time, because
That is
like, that's
correct.
a
Yeah.
hard relationship for me. Project.
Progen, yeah, I that resonates with me, I would say. I'm still learning that. Okay, so another thing that I was recently reading is that the CNCF has an observability special interest group, and this one is expanding into CICD. It might be a possibility to get CDK Express pipeline to report open telemetry issues, right? And then you get around the problem of not being able to visualize the stages. But that's also a conversation for a different time, right? But a lot of
Mm.
there's a I would let's say I think that there is a lot of potential of improving um, triaging and analysis of CI/CD pipelines in general, and I think that's where we can get better as well. So tell
But
us a little bit about. Sorry, go ahead.
there's a little something that I'm working on the side, but that's paused for a while now, and that is because I realize this doesn't exist, and usually you don't really want it until you want it, and then you realize it does not exist. But it is to roll back waves or stages. So imagine you have this multi-region deployment, and you have, for example, your backend stack that's in that is in every region, and it might only deploy to region A and B, but C fails. Now you have to roll forward to get that stack C deployed, or you have to roll back to remove stack, like in those other two regions. So there's different concepts, but if you roll back, there's no easy way to roll back those stacks. So I was starting to build something in CDK Express pipeline
Mhm.
to exactly do that, to be able to roll back stacks that is in a stage or a wave if one of them fails. And this then works across accounts and across regions. But it became very complex in the end. I'm still actually busy with it. I've not written so many tests in my life, I believe. So yeah, I just paused it for a while, but I still need to get back to it because there was some other CDK core feature that got introduced that I would like to use. But I'm still excited about that, and I still want to get that in.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting thing to follow up and to integrate. Because I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? And for me, I really think we need to make CI/CD easier in general, right? So that means giving people the understanding that doing CI/CD solves all problems if they start with CI/CD in their projects. And I think that's where it needs to become simpler and more, more usable in general. Okay, Rehan, tell us a little bit about in what kind of projects have you used CDK Express Pipeline? And what kind of applications are you deploying with it? Is it just serverless stuff, or does it also include a lot of compute, EKS-based things? Now, besides all of the stuff that is public, is there anything you can tell us about the projects where you use this?
So like the latest project I'm using it on is this thing called data landing zone, which is a CDK construct for a landing zone, which is more targeted towards data. And I'm not going to go too much into the details, but if you've worked with AWS before, like there's lots of boilerplate that you have to get out of the get done, like setting up multiple accounts, regions, tagging, budgets, VPCs, NATs, all these things like security controls that you don't want to do every time you start a new project or a new account, but it needs to be there for your application to run. So this whole thing, if we just quickly maybe look at what it looks like it's CDK again, but here you define data landing zone and you pass it the regions you want. Um, you specify your organization structure and accounts, development, production. Like you're going to find your VPCs and your budgets. And so this one single definition of your landing zone needs then to be deployed to multiple AWS accounts
Mhm.
and in multiple stages and in multiple waves. And so this is where I use CDK pipelines. If you look at where was it? There's a whole section for it. Components, build system, deployment order. But here it's used slightly differently than what I proposed before. Is that we have that does not look great on the browser if I zoom it, but we have these like global stages where it first deploys to your nominated global region, which can be something like anything, but it first deploys that because sometimes you have some global resources, and then it deploys to multiple regions that stack, and then so all of that dependency management is then controlled by the CDK pipelines.
Cool. And that means it builds out that whole deployment order and stack for you in an automated way, which then once again allows you to just execute CDK deploy to deploy all of your landing zone in general. Data
Yes.
landing zone.
So
Okay.
yeah, so our clients that's on GitLab, for example, are very happy about this. They don't have to use code pipeline or code build and give their um, engineers access to actual AWS to be able to log in and see logs. It's very much easy. It stays in GitLab. They just have to do the CDK deploy command, or the CCOE team can do that locally and even test and debug it.
Cool. So I'll link this as well. I think this is a very good example of where to use this in practice. Is this data landing zone is most probably also open sourced somewhere, I guess. So I can see
Yes.
we can also show the usage of the CDK Express pipelines within the code of the data landing zone.
Yes.
I think.
So it
Cool.
is here. It's just much more complex. So that's why we are going to dive into it now. It's much more code and boilerplate around it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, of course, right? So if anyone is interested to look at this in details, I'll link the source code to this as well. Cool. Thank you so much. This was really good. Rehan, anything else that you think is worth sharing about the project? So about the CDK Express Pipeline project. Where do you think it's going in 2025?
So it's it's stable. Like that experimental feature that I talked about, rolling back stacks across waves and stages. I would like to see that get in there. And maybe even that auto generation for a few build systems like GitHub and then maybe later GitLab to be able to do some command. Like I know we talked about Progen, like if you can run Progen and then it generates this for you and you commit it. So something like that. So I'm looking at those two features next. But as far as it is now, it's stable. It's being used in production. I just haven't had a lot of time to work on these extra features.
Cool. What about supporting Java, C Sharp, and Go?
Yes, I just have not had any ask for it
That's
because it's a
okay.
project,
So if
right?
you
So we
have
just
if
rolled
you
it.
have a need for this, please reach out to Rehan, right? And we can see on how to make this possible as well. Another question on
Definitely.
the project: what about contributions? Is this a project where you're actively looking for contributors as well, or is this something that is just you?
Um, no, please, anyone. It's open source for a reason. If you have something to contribute, make an issue. We talk about it. You start working on it. Yeah.
Cool.
Do is
What
there a
will
contribution?
what will 2025 bring for you, Rehan? Any idea on where you're going?
Um, I need to write more blog posts and do more talks. Like this year, or like previous year, I've been very much in a builder mode. I've done quite a few projects like you see now, and a few other things as well. Yeah, I've been really enjoying the builder mode, but I need to get back to a bit of blogging and giving back to the community with some other things that I used to do.
Cool. I'll hand you out the CFP for our community day in Germany. I know it's a long travel, but if you happen to be in Germany, maybe that's an opportunity for you. Um, Anything else that you want to share with the audience before we end today's recording?
I think that's reasonably it. Didn't go through all of the README in the CDK Express pipeline, but I think we touched on most of it. So yeah, please go through it if you want to. Like there's even like a legacy type of mode where you don't have to extend this new stack. You can still use cdk.stack and use this Express pipeline. So there's quite a few other features as well, making it easier to work with and different ways to work with it. But no, I think we covered most of it. I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity.
How can people reach out to you? What is the best way? Are you using Blue Sky, Twitter, X, whatever, LinkedIn? What's the best way if people have questions?
Yes, all of those. X, you can probably if you like really want to, but yeah, I'm on the Blue Sky, LinkedIn. I'm usually, if you are on some AWS Slack channel somewhere, search Rehan van der Merwe. I'm probably there. You can also just DM me there directly. But LinkedIn, yeah, Blue Sky, Twitter, go for it.
Cool. Thank you so much. This has been a great recording. And as I mentioned to you previously, the first recording of 2025 for me. So thank you so much for making it pleasant and for creating a very informative session for the audience. And if you did like this session, please let us know. If you did not like it, please also let us know on what you're missing. So next time we do something, we can improve. Rehan, thank you for getting on. Have a great rest of your day. And yeah, have a great rest of the year.
Thanks, Johannes. You too. Thanks for having me. Cheers, everyone.
Bye bye.